We find ourselves, at this very instant, experiencing something we believe to be utterly obvious. The present moment. You are hearing these words now. Not a moment ago, not a moment hence, but precisely now. This seems about as certain as anything can be, more certain, perhaps, than the chair beneath you or the walls around you. The present moment feels like the one thing we can point to with absolute confidence and say, this exists, this is real, this is happening. But what if I told you that now is one of the great illusions of human experience? Consider what you assume without noticing. When you think, right now, at this very instant, somewhere a star is being born, you imagine that this instant, your instant, stretches across the cosmos like a great wave, synchronizing distant galaxies with nearby coffee cups. You assume that now means the same thing on a planet orbiting Alpha Centauri as it does in your living room. You take for granted that there exists a universal present moment, shared by all observers everywhere, ticking forward at the same rate for everyone. This assumption is so deep, we rarely notice we hold it. It feels less like an assumption and more like a fact about the furniture of reality. Of course there's a universal now. What else could there be? Here's the strange thing. Physics reveals no such universal moment. The now you experience cannot be meaningfully extended across space. There is no cosmic clock ticking out a shared instant for all observers. The present moment you believe you're inhabiting doesn't extend beyond your immediate vicinity in any meaningful cosmic sense. To see why this matters, imagine two friends who synchronize their watches perfectly and then walk in opposite directions around the Earth. When they reunite, do their watches still agree? At walking speed, essentially yes. The disagreement is mere nanoseconds, unmeasurable by any ordinary clock. But here's the crucial point. The disagreement is real. It exists. It is not an error in the watches or a failure of synchronization. It is a fundamental feature of reality. Scale up the speed, and you scale up the discrepancy. At near-light velocities, one friend's watch could read years ahead of the other's. The same moment becomes a matter of perspective, not cosmic fact. We evolved at walking speeds, so we never noticed. The universe noticed. Our intuition of absolute simultaneity was built for survival, not truth. Evolution equipped us with brains optimized for avoiding predators, finding food, and navigating the African savanna. Nothing in that environment required us to comprehend relativity. Absolute simultaneity feels obvious because at walking speeds it's functionally true. True enough to hunt a mammoth, true enough to coordinate with your tribe, true enough to build civilizations. But functionally true is not actually true. The map that works for the village fails catastrophically at cosmic scales. In 1905, Albert Einstein revealed something that still hasn't fully penetrated our collective understanding. Simultaneity depends on motion. Two events that appear simultaneous to one observer appear sequential to another, moving differently, and neither is wrong. This is not a measurement problem or a perceptual illusion. There is no real simultaneity hidden beneath the disagreement. The disagreement is fundamental. Let me make this vivid. Imagine you're standing on a railway platform. Two lightning bolts strike either end of a long train at what you observe to be exactly the same instant, simultaneously, from your perspective. But a passenger sitting at the exact center of the moving train, traveling toward one bolt and away from the other, sees something different. Light from the front strike reaches them first. They observe the front bolt striking before the rear. Both observations are equally correct. There is no fact of the matter about which event really happened first? Sit with that for a moment. The universe permits no resolution. There is no cosmic judge who can declare that you, on the platform, saw the true sequence while the passenger was somehow deceived. Both of you are right. Both of you observed reality accurately, and your realities disagree about the order of events. The consequences ripple outward from this single insight. If now cannot be universally defined, if what counts as simultaneous depends on how you're moving, then the sharp boundary between what exists and what doesn't yet exist dissolves into observer dependence. Past, present, and future become categories we impose, not categories the universe imposes on us. Notice how naturally you still assume simultaneity extends across distance. When you learn that a loved one has died in a distant city, you think of the moment of their death as simultaneous with some moment of your own experience. You imagine learning the news and think, while I was having breakfast, they were dying. But simultaneous has no observer-independent meaning across that distance. The comfortable fiction of shared cosmic time operates constantly in your thinking. Now you can see it operating, and once seen, it cannot be unseen. The phrase, right now, across the universe, loses its naive meaning. The assumption cracks. Through that crack, something extraordinary becomes visible, a universe far stranger than common sense permits. If there is no universal now, then what determines whose present is real? And if my now can be your past or future, depending on nothing more than how we happen to be moving, what does that imply about whether the future already exists? The crack in our assumptions now widens into a chasm. We have seen that simultaneity is relative, that two observers in motion disagree about which events are simultaneous, and neither is wrong. But we have not yet confronted the full weight of what this means, because it means something quite extraordinary about existence itself. Consider two people sitting on the same park bench on Earth. One stands up and walks slowly, at ordinary walking pace, toward the Andromeda galaxy. The other stands up and walks slowly away from Andromeda. Nothing dramatic, no spaceships, no exotic physics, just two pedestrians strolling in opposite directions. Their now slices, the set of events each considers simultaneous with this moment, reach the Andromeda galaxy at different times. Not different by nanoseconds, different by days. At higher speeds, the difference can be weeks, months, centuries. Same park bench, same Earth, same apparent instant. Yet their cosmic presents contain entirely different Andromedan events. The strolling direction of a pedestrian determines whether alien civilizations 2 million light-years away are experiencing what we would call their past or their future. The cosmos doesn't blink at this apparent absurdity. It simply permits it. This is the Andromeda paradox, and it forces a question we can no longer avoid. If events in Andromeda that are in my future are already in your present, are those events real yet or not? Think carefully. The person walking toward Andromeda has a now that includes Andromedan events you haven't reached yet, events that, from your perspective, haven't happened. But their now is as valid as yours. There is no privileged frame of reference that reveals the true present. Physics is democratic about reference frames. It gives no observer's now priority over another's. So the events are real for them. They exist. They're happening in their present, right now, from their perspective. In what sense, then, are they not real for you? The only consistent answer, the only answer that doesn't require us to arbitrarily declare one observer's present real and another's illusory, is that all events exist. The future you haven't reached is already there, embedded in a structure we haven't yet learned to see clearly. Your future events are not waiting to be created by the passage of time. They already exist, as surely as past events exist. This demands a complete revision of how we picture time. In the naive view, the view we absorb unconsciously from everyday experience, the present moment creates the future as time passes. The future is a realm of possibility, not yet real, waiting to be actualized by choices made in the present. The past, meanwhile, is gone, vanished into non-existence, surviving only as memory and record. This picture cannot survive the relativity of simultaneity. If another observer's now already includes your meeting tomorrow, already contains your trip next month, already encompasses events you believe haven't happened yet, in what sense are those events not real? The block universe suggests your future self is already there, already experiencing their present. You just haven't gotten there yet from your current vantage point. Let me push this further with a thought experiment. Imagine an alien in Andromeda whose motion relative to Earth makes their present include events on Earth centuries from now. Suppose they have impossibly powerful telescopes and can observe events across cosmic distances instantaneously. We're suspending some physics here, but the thought experiment illuminates the principle. They see cities on Earth that, from your perspective, don't exist yet. Technologies that haven't been invented. People who haven't been born. Is that future real? For the alien, it is their present, as undeniable as your present is to you. They're not seeing a possible future or a projection. They're seeing what, for them, is simply now. You cannot both be right in the naive sense, where one observer's present is the true present and the other's is somehow mistaken. The resolution is that both are right. Both presents are equally valid slices of reality. All times exist. This leads us to a question that becomes uncomfortably personal. If the future exists, is the you who experiences that future already there? If all moments are equally real, if past, present, and future are all embedded in the same structure, then are past versions of you still experiencing their present as vivid and real as your current experience? The universe you thought you knew, where the present moment is special, where the future is genuinely open, where the past is truly gone, begins to look like a comfortable fiction. A map adequate for the village, but wildly wrong about the territory. Notice how strange this feels. Notice too that the strangeness is a feature of reality, not of your confusion. Physics describes a universe where all times exist. The feeling that this can't be right is the friction between evolved intuition and discovered truth. We cannot remain in this confusion. These paradoxes demand resolution. Physics offers a framework that makes sense of everything we've encountered. Space-time as a single four-dimensional structure, all of it existing at once. But to understand that framework, we must learn to see time as something it doesn't feel like. We must see time as a dimension. This is where confusion resolves into understanding. We have seen that simultaneity is relative, and that this seems to imply the future already exists. We have felt the ground shift beneath our assumptions. Now we build solid ground, a new framework that makes sense of everything we've encountered. The framework is this: time is not a flowing river carrying us along. Time is a dimension. Consider what that means. We are accustomed to 3 dimensions of space: left, right, forward, backward, up, down. We move through these dimensions freely. We can go left, then right, then left again. We can climb stairs and descend them. Space extends in these directions, and we navigate it. Time, in the physics that Einstein bequeathed us, is a fourth dimension. The universe extends in time exactly as it extends in space. Not 3 dimensions, plus something else entirely. 4 dimensions of the same fundamental type, woven together into a single structure. We call this structure space-time. It simply is, complete, unchanging, containing all events that ever happen. The block does not flow, it does not unfold, it does not develop. It exists, whole and entire. Think of space-time as a loaf of bread. Each slice of the loaf represents all of space at a single moment of time, a 3-dimensional snapshot of the entire universe at one instant. Your position right now, the position of every star in the sky, the state of every particle in the cosmos, all captured in a single slice. Stack these slices together, and you have the 4-dimensional block, all of space at all times, existing as a complete object. In Newton's physics, there was only one correct way to slice the loaf, horizontally, yielding slices of simultaneous events that everyone agreed upon. Universal time meant universal now. Everyone sliced the same way. Everyone agreed on which events were simultaneous. But in Einstein's physics, the angle of slicing depends on your motion. 2 observers moving relative to each other slice the loaf at different angles. They carve out different now slices. The set of events I consider simultaneous is a tilted plane relative to yours. Same loaf, different present moments, different pasts, different futures. Neither angle is correct. All slicing angles are permitted. The universe cares not at all how we prefer to slice our bread. This is not philosophy. This is what Einstein's equations describe. The block universe is not a metaphysical speculation layered atop the physics. It is the physics. Space-time as a 4-dimensional structure is what relativity reveals about the nature of reality. If all slicing angles are equally valid, then all slices are equally real. Past slices, present slices, future slices, all embedded in the same structure, all existing in the same sense. Your birth and your death are both locations in the block, as real as your current moment, simply positioned at different coordinates, and flow becomes something we need to explain, not something we can assume. The block doesn't change or evolve, it simply exists. If there were some external time in which the block changed, we would need to ask what that time is made of, and we would face an infinite regress. There is no external time. There is only the structure itself. Then what is our experience of time's passage? What is the feeling of moving from past to present to future? It is something that happens within the block. The experience of flow is a feature of certain structures embedded in space-time. Structures like brains, like conscious observers, like you. The block itself is timeless, but within the block, there are patterns that experience themselves as moving through time. We will explore how this works shortly. For now, let the framework settle. Consider a map, an ordinary map of a city. The map represents 3 dimensions on a flat page. You don't think the map is incomplete because it doesn't move. It represents a complete territory, and the territory doesn't need to move to be real. The map is static, but the city it represents is fully real. Space-time diagrams work similarly. They represent all events, past, present, and future, as locations in a static structure. When physicists draw such diagrams, they see reality as relativity describes it, timeless, complete, containing everything that ever happens. When you look at such a diagram with your birth at one end and your death at the other, connected by the world line of your existence, You see your life as physics sees it, a four-dimensional shape stretched across the block, with every experience you ever have occupying its proper location in the structure. The queasy feeling this produces is the friction between intuition and truth. Imagine a cosmic photographer, somehow outside space-time, able to see the entire four-dimensional structure at once. What would they see? Not events happening in sequence, not the Big Bang followed by galaxy formation, followed by your breakfast this morning. They would see a crystalline structure containing all events, each at its proper location in space-time. No motion, no flow, just existence. Your entire life would appear as a four-dimensional shape. Every moment you experience, from first breath to last, occurring at once from that external view. Every version of you, infant, child, adult, elder, embedded in the structure simultaneously. The block universe resolves our paradoxes. Simultaneity is relative because different observers slice space-time at different angles, and all angles are equally valid. The future exists because the entire block exists. Past, present, and future are just labels we apply to different regions of the same structure. But understanding brings new puzzles. If the block is static, if all moments are equal, why does experience feel so radically asymmetric? Why do we remember the past and not the future? Why do we age in one direction only? Why does time seem to flow at all? The framework is built. Now we must explore its deeper mechanics. The block universe presents us with a puzzle that demands attention. We have described space-time as a four-dimensional structure in which past, present, and future are equally real. Different locations in the same block, like different cities on a map. The block itself has no preferred direction. The equations of physics work equally well, running forward or backward in time. Nothing in the fundamental laws distinguishes pastward from futureward. Yet our experience is radically asymmetric. We remember yesterday. We anticipate tomorrow. We age toward death, never toward youth. Ice melts in warm water. Water never spontaneously freezes while the room heats up. Eggs break, but never unbreak. We watch films of shattering glasses and instantly know if they're running backward. Something generates this arrow of time, and that something is not the structure of space-time itself. It is entropy. Entropy is a measure of disorder, more precisely, a measure of the number of microscopic arrangements that look the same from a macroscopic perspective. A tidy room has low entropy. There are relatively few ways to arrange furniture and objects that count as tidy. A messy room has high entropy. There are vastly more ways for objects to be scattered about randomly than to be precisely organized. The second law of thermodynamics tells us that entropy tends to increase. Systems evolve from ordered to disordered states, from low entropy to high entropy, from tidy to messy. This is not a law in the sense of a commandment. It's a statistical inevitability. There are simply far more disordered arrangements than ordered ones, so random changes almost always move toward disorder. Ice melts because the ordered arrangement of water molecules in a crystal is one arrangement among astronomically few, while the disordered arrangement of liquid water is countless configurations that look identical. Given any random change, the system almost certainly moves toward the more probable state, the liquid. We never see water spontaneously freeze while the room heats up, even though the laws of physics permit it, because the probability of all those water molecules spontaneously organizing themselves into a crystal while heat flows the wrong way is essentially zero. Now here is the profound insight. The universe began in a state of extraordinarily low entropy. The Big Bang was not chaotic. It was astonishingly ordered, a hot, dense, but remarkably uniform state that was wildly improbable as a thermal configuration. Everything since has been the gradual dispersal of that initial order. Stars form and burn out. Galaxies collide and disperse. Hot things cool down. Structures emerge and decay. The direction of this cosmic dispersal is what we call the arrow of time. We live downstream of a mysterious low-entropy beginning, and the current of increasing entropy carries us from past to future. There are, in fact, 3 arrows of time that all point the same direction. The thermodynamic arrow, entropy increases. The psychological arrow, we remember the past. And the cosmological arrow, the universe expands. All 3 align, and they must, for observers like us to exist. The thermodynamic arrow is primary. The other arrows derive from it. Consider memory. How do brains store information about the past? Through physical processes, neurons firing, synapses strengthening, patterns being encoded in matter. These processes require energy expenditure. They are thermodynamically irreversible. They increase entropy. Memory formation is entropy increase. Reading these words and storing them in your brain raises the entropy of your body and its environment. This is why we remember the low entropy past and not the high entropy future. Memory formation requires the entropic gradient to point in a particular direction. The psychological arrow is not separate from the thermodynamic arrow. It is a consequence of it. So the mystery is not why time has a direction. Given a low entropy beginning, the direction follows automatically. The mystery is the beginning itself. Why did the universe start so ordered? The Big Bang, as an initial state, was astonishingly improbable when viewed as a random thermal configuration. We don't yet know why. But this mystery doesn't undermine our understanding. It deepens it. The block universe contains the arrow of time. The arrow doesn't contradict the block. It's a pattern within the block, embedded in its structure. The equations of physics are time-symmetric, but the boundary conditions are not. You can see the arrow everywhere you look. Break an egg. Watch cream swirl into coffee. Notice how these processes only run one direction. You're watching entropy increase, the statistical inevitability of disorder rising. The universe permits the reverse. Nothing in the laws forbids it. But the probabilities are cosmically against it. Every irreversible process you witness is a tiny chapter in the story of cosmic dispersal that began 14 billion years ago. You are living in the downstream flow of a universe that started inexplicably ordered and has been spreading out ever since. Imagine filming a glass shattering on a floor, then playing the film backward. Instantly, you know the reversed film is wrong. Shards don't spontaneously assemble into glasses, propelled by the floor, into the air, and into someone's waiting hand. The laws of physics work equally well in both directions, but your intuition rebels. What you're detecting is the entropy gradient, the deeper symmetry baked into the universe by its ordered beginning. Your sense of time's direction is entropy detection, built into your brain by evolution, operating every moment of your conscious life. The block universe contains this arrow. The past regions of the block are lower in entropy. The future regions are higher. This asymmetry is not fundamental to the structure of spacetime. It's a feature of the conditions within our universe. We now understand why time seems to flow in one direction, despite the block's fundamental symmetry. The arrow is not illusion, but neither is it primary. It's a consequence of how our universe started. But we have not yet explained the most intimate aspect of temporal experience. The feeling of now, the sensation that this moment is special, that consciousness moves through time like a spotlight illuminating the present. If the block is static, if all moments simply exist, what generates our experience of flowing through them? We arrive now at the deepest implication of everything we have explored. The flow of time, the sensation that now moves from past to future, that consciousness slides through moments like a bead along a wire. Maybe consciousness is artifact, not reality's feature. This is perhaps the most counterintuitive claim we have encountered. We feel time passing with an immediacy that seems to brook no argument. The present moment feels utterly different from memory or anticipation. Right now feels real in a way that yesterday and tomorrow do not. And yet the block universe contains no moving spotlight. There is no cosmic now sweeping across space-time, illuminating each moment in turn. The block simply is, timeless, complete, unchanging. So what are we experiencing when we experience the flow of time? Consider a movie. A film exists as a complete reel, thousands of still frames, each one frozen, none of them moving. Hold any frame up to the light, and you see a static image. The characters don't move. The story doesn't progress. Time doesn't pass. The film is a block. Yet when you watch the movie, you experience continuous motion, narrative flow, time passing. Characters walk, speak, change, events unfold, tension builds and releases. The experience of change emerges from static structure. We are frames in a cosmic film. Each frame, each moment of your existence embedded in the block is a complete configuration. It has a brain with memories of earlier frames and anticipations of later ones. It has a sense of now, a feeling of being present, an experience of this moment and no other. But none of the frames move. There is no projector outside the block shining a light that advances from frame to frame. Each frame simply exists, timelessly, with its own sense of being the current one. Here is the key. Memory formation requires entropy increase. Brains can only encode information through thermodynamically irreversible processes, processes that increase entropy, that cannot run backward. When you form a memory of an event, you're creating a physical record in your neural structure through processes that raise the overall entropy of your brain and its environment. This is why we remember the low entropy past and not the high entropy future. The psychological arrow of time, the direction in which memory points, is a consequence of the thermodynamic arrow. We remember the past because memory formation requires entropic gradient in that direction. We don't remember the future because forming memories of future events would require entropy to decrease, which is cosmically improbable. Now consider any single moment of your existence, any frame in your cosmic film. That moment has a brain containing memories of earlier moments and lacking knowledge of later ones. It experiences itself as now. It feels like the present moment, the only real one, the one where consciousness is actually located. But the moment before this one, embedded elsewhere in the block, also experiences itself as now. It also has memories of its past and uncertainty about its future. It also feels utterly present, utterly real, utterly the location of consciousness. And the moment after this one, equally embedded in the block, will have the same experience. It will feel present. It will remember this moment as past. It will be convinced that it is the current one. Each slice of you in the block has equal claim to being the present you. They all exist. They all experience themselves as now. There is no external fact about which one is really the current moment. The flow of time is phenomenological. not ontological. The feeling of time passing is real as an experience. It is a genuine feature of certain structures within the block, but it does not correspond to any motion through the block. The block doesn't move beneath you. Each moment simply is, experiencing itself as the moving edge of time. This is not a failure of the block universe to account for experience. It is the block universe predicting exactly this experience. Given the entropic gradient and the nature of memory formation, structures like brains will inevitably experience themselves as moving through time, even though, from the block perspective, all moments exist simultaneously. Let me offer a thought experiment that makes this vivid. Imagine we created a perfect copy of you, physically identical, with all your memories, all your personality, all your sense of continuous identity. At the moment of copying, both versions would swear they are the real you, the one who just experienced the last few seconds. Both would have memories of your life leading up to this moment. Both would feel the continuity of consciousness that seems to define identity. Each has equal claim. Neither can prove it's the original. The sense of being the continuous you, the real you, the one moving through time, it exists in both copies identically. Similarly, each slice of you in the block has equal claim to being the present you. Yesterday, you, embedded in the block, also experiences that moment as now, also remembers its past, also anticipates its future, also feels utterly present. This raises vertiginous questions that we cannot easily answer. If yesterday you still exists in the block, still experiencing their present, are they still conscious? Is there something it's like to be yesterday you, even now? Does the past somehow contain ongoing experience, preserved timelessly in the structure of space-time? Or is consciousness something that only happens once at each moment, leaving frozen frames in its wake? We don't know. The block universe tells us the moments exist. It doesn't tell us whether they experience, but it forces us to take the question seriously in a way our naive view of time never did. Consider the moment of waking from dreamless sleep. Where were you for those hours? The block universe suggests you were there the whole time, unconscious slices of yourself existing in space-time. But without memory formation, there's no experience of duration. The gap in your experience is not a gap in existence. You existed through every moment. You simply formed no memories of it. The experience of flow, of moving through time, of being this moment and leaving the last moment behind, it is generated by structures within the block, not by the block moving beneath us. The present moment is not a spotlight sweeping across reality. It is every moment's claim about itself. You are not travelling through the block. You are portions of the block, stretched across time, experiencing yourself slice by slice, convinced of your motion through what is actually stillness. We have mapped the physics and explained the experience. We understand why time has a direction, why we remember the past, why the present feels special. But understanding and living are different things. If all moments exist equally, if our trajectory through time is not a journey but a shape, what does this change about how we relate to memory, anticipation, regret, and hope? What does it mean to live in the eternal block? We have mapped the physics of time. We understand that space-time is a four-dimensional block in which all moments exist equally, that the flow of time is generated by structures within the block rather than by the block moving beneath us, that our experience of now is every moment's claim about itself. But understanding is not the same as living. And now we must ask, what does this change about how we actually inhabit our existence? Let us begin with the past. In the naive view, the view we absorb unconsciously from everyday experience, past moments are gone, vanished, dissolved into non-existence. What happened yesterday survives only as neural traces in your brain, as photographs in albums, as words in diaries. The events themselves have ceased to exist. The past is a country we cannot revisit because, in some fundamental sense, it is no longer there. This view shapes how we relate to memory. We think of remembering as pulling faded copies from storage, imperfect reproductions of moments that no longer exist. We mourn the passage of time as a form of loss. We watch children grow and feel that their younger selves have somehow been erased, replaced by the people they're becoming. But the block universe tells us something different. Those past moments persist. They are embedded in space-time as surely as this moment is. The you who experienced your 10th birthday still exists, not as a memory, not as a faded photograph, but as a real slice of your 4-dimensional self, located at a different set of coordinates in the block. As real as the you reading these words. Consider your 5-year-old self. Where did that child go when you grew up? In the naive view, they were gradually replaced, cell by cell, thought by thought, year by year, until nothing of them remained except traces in an older brain. The child is gone, leaving only an adult who remembers being young. In the block view, nowhere. That child still exists. They are still experiencing their present, still looking forward to a future that is, from their perspective, not yet here. Still feeling the wonder and confusion and joy of being 5 years old. You didn't replace them. You extend from them. They are not a memory. They are a portion of your 4-dimensional self, as real as any other portion. You are a structure stretched across time, and that child is part of the structure. Not its abandoned beginning, but its permanent foundation. This transforms how we might hold our memories. Think of a vivid memory, a moment of joy, or pain, or love. Perhaps it's a conversation with someone now dead. Perhaps it's a perfect afternoon that seemed to end too quickly. Perhaps it's a moment of shame you've carried for years. In the block view, that moment is not gone. The you who lived it still lives it. Regret, in this light, connects you not to absence, but to presence. When you regret a past action, you are not dwelling on something that no longer exists. You are in relation to a moment that remains, a slice of yourself still embedded in space-time, still experiencing the consequences of that choice. This doesn't intensify regret or diminish it. It changes its texture entirely. Memory, too, becomes something different. What we call memory is not the preservation of vanished things, but the connection between different slices of ourselves. It is navigation, not storage. Memory doesn't save the past from oblivion. The past needs no saving. Memory links one portion of your 4-dimensional existence to another, and identity stretches across the block. You are not confined to this moment. You are every moment you have ever been or will be. A 4-dimensional shape in space-time, not a point moving through it. The boundaries of self expand beyond the present to encompass the entire trajectory. There is something both consoling and vertiginous in this picture. Consoling because nothing is truly lost. The meaningful moments of your life retain their reality. The joy of your wedding day, the grief of your losses, the ordinary Tuesday afternoons that seemed insignificant at the time, all remain part of what is, not merely what was. They have not been erased by the passage of time. They exist, permanently, in the structure of space-time. Those we have lost to death are not erased. Every moment we shared with them persists. Their death is the boundary of their four-dimensional structure, the end of their temporal extension, but it is not the deletion of their existence. They remain, timelessly, in the earlier slices. The love we shared with them is not gone. It is located at specific coordinates in the block, as real as any other region of spacetime, and vertiginous, because this challenges our sense of what we are. We are accustomed to thinking of ourselves as points of consciousness moving through time, accumulating experiences, leaving the past behind. The block view suggests we are more like statues than travelers, fixed structures that experience themselves as moving, shapes that feel themselves becoming. But perhaps both metaphors miss something. We are neither travelers nor statues. We are something new, four-dimensional beings who experience one dimension as passage, one direction as flow, for reasons rooted in entropy and memory formation. We are structures that contain their own experience of change. Consider, as an exercise, think of a past moment that carries emotional weight. Let yourself feel the shift from "that moment is gone" to "that moment exists, and I am connected to it across the block." Notice whether grief might contain consolation, whether joy might feel less fleeting, whether shame might transform when it connects to presence rather than absence. The past is not something we carry. It is something we extend from. If the past persists in this way, what of the future? If all moments are equally real, then the future we plan for, worry about, hope for, is it already there? And if so, what happens to anticipation, to anxiety, to the feeling that our choices shape what's coming? The block universe is symmetrical in time. Past and future are equally embedded in the structure. Different regions, different coordinates, but neither more nor less real than the other. We have seen that the past persists. Now we must face the parallel truth about the future. The future you worry about already exists in the block. The meeting tomorrow, the trip next month, your eventual death. All are locations in space-time, as real as the present moment. The version of you who experiences that future, who walks into that meeting, who takes that trip, who draws that last breath, is already there, embedded in the structure, as real as the you sitting here. This does not make planning pointless. Your plans are part of the structure too. Consider what planning actually is. You imagine possible futures, you weigh options, you decide on a course of action, you take steps to bring certain outcomes about. In the naive view, this process creates the future, pulls it from a realm of mere possibility into the land of the actual. In the block view, something subtly different is happening. The future already exists. But which future? The deliberation, the planning, the choosing, these are not separate from the determined outcome. They are how that outcome comes to be. They are part of what makes the block the particular block it is. The future that exists includes your plans. The version of events embedded in the block contains your deliberations, your efforts, your choices. Determinism and deliberation are not opposed. Deliberation is part of how determination works. What changes is the character of anticipation. In the naive view, we anticipate the future as something we must create. The anxiety of anticipation is the anxiety of uncertain creation. Will I succeed? Will I fail? Will I make the right choice? The future feels like a blank page we must write, a sculpture we must carve from the marble of possibility. In the block view, anticipation becomes discovery rather than creation. The future already exists. You simply don't know what it contains. You are not making the future happen. You are moving toward it, discovering which path through the block is yours. This is a subtle shift, but it can transform how future anxiety feels. Notice a moment of anxiety about the future, a deadline, a decision, an uncertain outcome. The conventional experience. You must make this happen. You might fail. The outcome depends on your choices in a way that feels like cosmic responsibility. Now reframe. The outcome already exists in the block. You are not creating it from nothing. You are discovering what is already there. Does this diminish the anxiety, intensify it, or simply change its texture? The shift from "I must make this happen" to "I will discover what is there" is subtle but real. The future cannot fail to arrive. It already exists. What remains uncertain is your knowledge of it, not its reality. Think of it this way: a river seen from space. From above, you see the entire river simultaneously. Source, middle, mouth. All locations exist equally. The water at the source is as real as the water at the mouth. Neither has ontological priority. But if you were a fish in the river, you would experience your journey as movement through time. You would feel yourself progressing from one location to the next. You would anticipate the bend ahead without knowing what lies beyond it. You would remember the stretch behind without being able to return. The fish experiences flow. The satellite sees structure. Neither view is wrong. They are different perspectives on the same reality. We are fish, convinced of the specialness of our current spot in the river. The block universe is the view from space, the recognition that the entire river exists, that our experience of flow is how it feels to be embedded in a structure, not evidence that the structure itself is flowing. The terror of the future often comes from the sense of running out of time, the feeling that the river is carrying us toward an end, that the water behind us is disappearing, that we have only so much river left before we reach the sea. But the river doesn't run out. It all exists. The mouth is no more real than the source. Your death is a location in the block, not an erasure of your existence. The portions of you that extend from birth to death remain, timelessly, permanently, in the structure of space-time. You are not racing against annihilation. You are revealing a trajectory. The frantic relationship with time can soften into something more like curiosity. What shape does my four-dimensional existence have? What path through the block is mine to discover? Planning remains meaningful. Your plans are part of the shape. Effort remains meaningful. Your efforts are part of what makes the block what it is. What shifts is the cosmic anxiety, the feeling that you are responsible for creating existence from nothing. The future exists in the same sense the past does. It is not yet real. It is simply not yet reached from your current position in the block. Your future self is already there, experiencing their present. You just haven't gotten there yet. But if the future exists, if the entire block is determined, fixed, complete, what of freedom? What of the sense that alternatives are open, that we genuinely choose between possibilities? Does the block universe eliminate meaning itself? The block universe seems to eliminate free will. If everything already exists, if the future is as fixed as the past, if every event is embedded in the unchanging structure of space-time, then in what sense do we choose anything? The decision you face tomorrow is already made, located in the block, as determined as the decisions of yesterday. You feel as if you could go left or right, but the block contains only one path, the path you take. The feeling of alternatives is apparently illusion. This troubles many people deeply. The sense of free will feels fundamental to human existence. We experience ourselves as agents, as choosers, as beings who could have done otherwise. Moral responsibility seems to depend on it. The entire edifice of praise and blame, of guilt and pride, of striving and achievement. Does it not require genuine freedom? Let us think carefully about what the block universe actually implies. Consider a novel, a completed book sitting on a shelf. From outside the novel, every event is fixed. Every choice the characters make is determined by the words on the page. Hamlet cannot decide to forgive Claudius and retire to the countryside. Anna Karenina cannot choose to stay home on that fateful day. The plot is frozen in ink, but within the story, the characters deliberate. They weigh options. They make decisions. Their choices are real features of the narrative, so real that removing them would change the story entirely. Hamlet's indecision is not illusory just because the book is already written. It is what makes the story it is. We are characters in a cosmic novel. Our choices are determined from the outside view, from the perspective of someone who could see the entire block. But from inside, from where we actually live, the choices are absolutely real. The deliberation happens. The weighing of options happens. The decision happens. These are not separate from the outcome embedded in the block. They are how that outcome comes to be embedded. The insight is this: free will as usually conceived, the ability to have done otherwise in exactly the same circumstances, may indeed be illusion. The block contains only one path. You could not, in any meaningful sense, have chosen differently. But choice as an experience, as a process, as a causal factor, this is not illusory. The choosing itself is part of what determines the shape of the block. Consider deliberation. When you weigh options and decide, that deliberation is part of what produces the outcome. If you had not deliberated, the outcome would be different, and that different outcome would not be in our block, but in some other hypothetical block. The deliberation is causally efficacious. It matters. It shapes what exists. Determinism does not mean deliberation is pointless. It means deliberation is part of how determination works. This is what philosophers call compatibilism, the view that determinism and meaningful freedom are compatible, that we can have everything worth wanting from free will, even in a determined universe. Freedom, understood correctly, is not the ability to violate physical law or escape the structure of space-time. It is the experience of being an agent whose deliberations matter to outcomes. The block universe preserves this entirely. Even determinists look both ways before crossing the road. The practical irrelevance of determinism is itself a truth about human existence. We must act as if we choose, regardless of the metaphysics. We cannot peek ahead in the block to see what decision is embedded there. We must live through the deliberation to find out. The determinism is real, but practically invisible. This is not contradiction. It is the texture of existence. Try this exercise. Choose something right now. Anything. Raise your left hand or your right. You will feel, irresistibly, as if you could have chosen otherwise. The sense of alternatives is vivid, immediate, undeniable. The block universe says you couldn't. The block contains only one choice, the choice you made. But notice, the choice still happened. You still weighed options, however briefly. The experience of agency is not erased by the metaphysics. The experience is a real feature of what occurred. The block contains not just the action, but the agent, not just the decision, but the deliberation, not just the outcome, but the sense of choosing that produced it. What shifts is the cosmic anxiety of ultimate responsibility. In the naive view of free will, you are a kind of unmoved mover, a first cause that could have done otherwise, fully responsible for the cascade of consequences that flows from your choices. This can feel like tremendous power, but also like crushing weight. Every choice is fraught with cosmic significance. In the block view, you are part of the structure. Your choices are real, but they are also part of a determined whole. You could not have done otherwise, but then neither could anything else in the universe. The weight of being the ultimate origin of your actions dissolves. You are participating in a pattern, not creating existence from nothing. This can be liberating. The character in the novel makes real choices that matter to the story, but the character is not burdened with having invented the novel. We make real choices that matter to our lives, but we are not burdened with having created the universe's trajectory. Our freedom is real, but bounded, real enough to matter, bounded enough to bear. There is a cosmic humility in determinism, and perhaps a cosmic relief. We have now integrated the block universe with human life, with memory, anticipation, regret, hope, and the sense of freedom. We have seen how the physics reshapes these experiences without eliminating their reality. One question remains. Having journeyed from naive assumption through physics and philosophy, we are ready for the final answer to the question that began our inquiry. What, then, is the present you think you're experiencing? We began with a simple question that turned out to be anything but simple. What is the present? The present moment, this instant you're experiencing right now, seemed like the most obvious thing in the world. The one thing we could point to with absolute certainty and say, this exists, this is real, this is happening. We have travelled a long way from that naive certainty. We discovered that simultaneity is relative, that what counts as now depends on how you're moving, that two observers can disagree about which events are simultaneous and both be correct. We encountered the Andromeda paradox, where the strolling direction of a pedestrian determines whether alien civilizations experience what we would call their past or their future. We learned that physics offers no universal now sweeping across the cosmos. We built a new framework, space-time as a four-dimensional block, all of it existing at once, past, present, and future equally real, equally embedded in the structure. The block doesn't flow or change, it simply is. Our experience of moving through time is something that happens within the block, generated by structures like brains that remember the past and anticipate the future. We understood the arrow of time, the asymmetry between past and future, as a consequence of entropy, rooted in the improbable low entropy beginning of the universe. We saw how memory formation requires entropy increase, which is why we remember the past and not the future, why each moment experiences itself as now. We integrated this understanding with human life, reframing our relationship to the past that persists, the future that already exists, the freedom that remains meaningful within a determined structure. And now we are ready for our answer. The present is not a moment, it is a position. Your present, your now, is your location in the four-dimensional block. Just as here is your location in space, now is your location in time. And just as here is not objectively privileged over there, just as physics doesn't care about your spatial location, doesn't regard it as more real than any other location, so now is not objectively privileged over then. The present is indexical. It points to where you are, not to what the cosmos prefers. Every moment in the block experiences itself as now. The you of yesterday, embedded in the block, experiences that moment as their present. The you of tomorrow, also embedded, experiences that moment as their present. Each slice of your existence feels utterly immediate, utterly real, utterly the location of consciousness. There is no cosmic spotlight moving across the block, illuminating each moment in turn. There is no objective now that all observers share. There is only the question of which slice you're on, which coordinates in space-time you occupy. The present is a perspective. Think of characters in a novel. A character in Chapter 5 cannot see Chapters 1 or 10. They don't have access to the earlier or later parts of the story. From within the narrative, they experience their chapter as now, as the moment that is actually happening. They remember the earlier chapters and anticipate the later ones. But the reader sees the whole book. All chapters exist simultaneously on the shelf. The character's sense of being in the present moment, of Chapter 5 being where the story really is a feature of their position in the narrative, not an objective fact about which chapter is most real. We are characters. Physics glimpses the reader's view. From that view, we see that every moment of our existence persists, that we are not sparks briefly flickering before extinction, but trails of light through the darkness, every inch of the trail as real as this one. This resolves our original puzzle. We can now see why there is no universal now, why aliens in Andromeda have different presents depending on their motion, why simultaneity is relative. There was never a universal present to find. There was only ever the question of which slice you're on. And this leads to a final insight about what we are. You are larger than you thought. Not a momentary flicker of consciousness, but a four-dimensional structure stretched across time. Every experience you ever have is embedded in the block, as real as this moment. Your birth is not something that happened and vanished. It is a permanent feature of space-time. Your death is not an annihilation. It is the boundary of your four-dimensional shape. Every moment between the childhood mornings, the adolescent confusions, the adult triumphs and failures, the quiet evenings and the dramatic turning points, all remain. All exist. All are, in the fullest sense, still you. Death is the boundary of our temporal extension. But boundaries are not erasures. A sculpture has edges, but the edges don't mean the sculpture doesn't exist. Your four-dimensional shape has edges at birth and death, but the shape itself exists, timelessly, permanently, in the structure of reality. And there is something more. We are the cosmos experiencing itself. Consciousness embedded in the block is the universe having a perspective on its own structure. We are not separate from the reality we describe. We are regions of it, looking around. When we comprehend the block universe, we are space-time understanding space-time. When we feel the flow of time, we are the block experiencing itself from within. We are just an advanced breed of monkeys on a minor planet of a very average star. But we can understand the universe. We can glimpse the block from inside it, see the shape of our existence stretched across time, know ourselves as four-dimensional beings embedded in a cosmos stranger than we dreamed. That makes us something very special indeed. This present moment, reading these words, exists. It will always exist, embedded in the block, real, occurring. Your experience of now is genuine, even though now is not universal. Feel the double truth. This moment is yours, intimately, and this moment is permanent, cosmically. You are not diminished by the block universe. You are revealed to be larger than you imagined. What would it mean to step outside the block and see your entire four-dimensional existence at once? Not as a memory chain, not as anticipation, but as a single sculptural form stretched across time. That form is you, more completely you than any moment within it. You cannot achieve this view, but you can know it exists, and knowing it changes what it means to be you. We began with a misconception about the present, the assumption that now is universal, that this moment stretches across the cosmos, that time flows like a river carrying us along. We have replaced that misconception with something stranger and more beautiful. The present as perspective, time as dimension, existence as structure. The cosmos is vaster than we imagined, and we are vaster within it. The present is not a moment. The present is a perspective, and the universe, as always, is far more interesting than common sense would lead us to believe.